to start. Perfect. Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Feel free as you're joining to drop in the chat where you're calling in from. I'm Isabella. I'm the media manager for Author Nation. I will give folks a couple minutes to join before we kick things off. But just a brief overview, this session, we will be talking about like an introduction to Spoken, their platform. We definitely will get to some Q&As today. So if you have things as we go that you have questions about, feel free to drop it in the webinar chat. Feel free to drop it in the Q&A box. We can also unmute people if it's like a longer thing you want to ask. And then anything that we don't get to today, we are going to have another session with the folks from Spoken tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Central. And that will be like a bit of a deeper dive into the talk that they gave at Author Nation, as well as just general Q&A about their platform and things that we don't get to today. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I see we have 10 folks so far. And I can kind of kick things off by introducing Phil Marshall. He is representing Spoken today. He's a one of the co-founders and creators of Spoken. So I'm going to kind of let him take it from here, and then I'll kind of facilitate the Q&A later as we go.
Great. Super. Well, Isabella, thank you so much. And thanks to the Author Nation folks for helping facilitate this today. We're excited to share our story, no pun intended, with you today. I'm joined here off screen by my co-founder, Andrew Wallner.
Hi.
And so we'll be walking through a number of things today that we hope you'll find very, very interesting and exciting. How the world of audio is changing for independent self-publishing authors. So let's go ahead and just kind of overview what we hope to share with you today. And we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers towards the end, but we'll walk through the status of the audio market. So listening is the new reading is a phrase we like because audio has become such a dominant modality of consuming the written word. What the disruption of the technology of AI narration really represents in the market and what that represents from an opportunity standpoint for indie authors. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we do in the market and how that can really change the complexion of the self-published audio economic landscape. It's what we call the spoken creator economy. We'll do a demonstration and then we'll open it up for Q&A. And so, yeah, let's just go ahead and we'll get right into it. So listening is the new reading. This is a fun phrase that we say a lot, but what it represents really is a bellwether moment, a watershed event, where we believe it's hard to actually put your finger on exact stats because very few folks even try to track this. But with regard to consuming written word, reading it on a printed page or on an electronic page versus hearing the words, many argue, and we think that there's good reason to argue that audio has become the dominant modality of consuming the written word. So that's why we say listening is the new reading, because we're right there at that threshold. Have we surpassed it? It's really difficult to know, but we think we're right there. What does that mean? Well, that means for all the focus that you have on the words, and I am a sci-fi author myself, the background really quickly on sort of origin story is that I was trained in general surgery, but then I switched to technology many years ago. And Andrew and I and Brent, our technology co-founder, we all sold our company in conversational AI and healthcare a few years ago. And I turned my attention to finishing my sci-fi novel, which is called Taming the Perilous Skies. And if you're looking it up right now, no, you won't find it because it hasn't been published yet. But I've only been rejected by 120 agents so far, so I'm just getting started, so give me some time. But for obvious reasons, self-publishing has become a real focus of mine and something that I plan to do with my own novel. And when I started to go through this process and refining my craft, the bug bit on how technology can help the self-publishing indie author to get their stories out and consumed. And so that's a little bit of the origin story behind why we're doing what we're doing. I like you all am an author. I don't always know whether to say writer or author if I haven't really formally or traditionally published or even self-published a novel. Am I an author? Well, I say I am because I put out a few things. But anyway, that's a gray area. Maybe for you as it is for me. I don't know. But authors is the word we embrace, and the people that we embrace as well. And so just a little bit more market background here and context. 38% of American adults have listened to an audiobook in the past year. And it's about five audiobooks consumed each year by those who do so. And when you look at that volume and how it's growing over time, and we'll give you a better sense of that in here in just a moment. When you compare it to ebooks, the growth rate of ebooks is 1 to 2%. You see a phrase there on the screen, CAGR is what's called, which is just compound annual growth rate. And that's just a way that businesses look at the analytics of a growth of any industry. And so that's a compounded annual growth rate, which is pretty steady now on ebooks, but audio continues to grow at a much more rapid pace. And we'll cover that a little more here in a moment. But for indie authors, audio traditionally, as many of you may know, has been an uphill battle of time and money. And that has now changed. For the first time, an author can create and publish quality, multicast, custom voiced audiobook in the time it takes to order a pizza for the cost of the pizza. We use that as a hook, I guess, as part of our story, because that was the disruptive thing that happened that changed everything and opened up this new opportunity for authors to now embrace audio in a way that was not possible before. And what does it mean to embrace audio? Well, there's a big world out there. Using our iceberg slide on the left, you can see that the very tip of the iceberg is the known market, the $10 billion market that exists right now in audiobooks. People have asked us, in fact, somebody asked us yesterday, how many audiobooks are out there in the world? And it's somewhere less than 100,000, which in the big scheme of things is still a pretty small number. But that represents the known market, that $10 billion market that's expanding by 25% year over year. It's expected very soon to hit a 30, 40, $50 billion market. But that's just the audiobook market. Like that's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to written word. Down below that is all of the short form that goes out through podcasting, which is growing by itself at 21% annually. And most all of podcasts and short form are unmonetized. Maybe some of you all are fortunate enough to have your story been picked up by a magazine, and so you've been paid for that. Maybe you're now SIFWA certified. I am not yet, but hashtag goals. And yet most short form is not monetized at all. It's just put out in the world for whatever reason. Maybe it's used for teasers. Maybe it's used just for podcasts that are informative. Maybe it's for just recognition, brand recognition. And yet, when I talk to the podcasting community and I talk to authors who do put out short form, very, very seldom is that actually monetized. Do they have control over how that gets paid for? Maybe it points to, your Patreon, and so you get some residual benefit from that, but really, truly, from a true control and monetization standpoint, it's hit or miss. Down below that, where audio is being made for long form or short form, is the entire world of stories that are not being narrated at all because traditionally, you all know it's been tough. The cost, complexity, the lack of financial incentive just makes it impractical to turn most conventional stories into audio. And we believe that that's an even bigger portion of the potential market. And then down below that, truly below the waterline, are all of those stories that are on Reddit and Wattpad and Medium, and the blogs and the author websites, all of those unconventional stories that are being read visually, but not audibly currently. And so when it comes to the world of words and the potential for a truly spoken creator economy, we believe that that is a very, very big space that now becomes possible. And so the market opportunity for authors is to leverage this sort of democratization with technology to really take full advantage of the spoken creator economy. Um, at Spoken, our mantra is help storytellers tell stories. And the reason we break it up like that with two periods there is very deliberate because we are really wanting to support authors and the readers who love to listen and who want to support them. So we say that we are a DIY solution for authors to self-publish, socialize, and monetize the audio of their works while also then supporting the readers who love to listen, the readers who want to discover and support the author community. We want to make this a place where authors can feel secure that they have control over their works, that it's high quality, that it's conveying their story very, very well, and it is directly and very transparently being monetized by them. We'll go into that here in just a little bit too. There are a few things, and again, I use this, I'm kind of, I'm always going to have two hats on this call. So on the one hand, I'm an author who came to this opportunity because I had a story that I wanted to narrate with a multitude of different multicast characters. And I worked very hard to create that story. It was called Kill Your Darlings, and I wrote it at the Taos Toolbox sci-fi fantasy workshop in New Mexico. And and I used 11 labs. This is before they even had their projects area at all. So imagine like trying to create a multicast audio of a story with a bunch of different, very interesting, I hope interesting characters. And if you think about the way that single narration works, it's pretty straightforward, right? You have a single narrator, they narrate the whole thing. But if you're going to actually have a multicast narration, you're splitting the spoken passages by each of the characters and those dialogue tags, which get spoken by the narrator. And then so I did that manually, right? So I did all that manually, and I had Camtasia out there, which is like Final Cut Pro, and I had all the little splices, and I had to time them, and I had to drag them, and it was a nightmare, and I lost the file, and I went crying, and then I finally had an end result that I was pretty satisfied with. It wasn't perfect, but pretty good. And the accents weren't available on 11 labs at the time, and so I hired some voice actors with Norwegian and Russian accents, and also that was really expensive. That like on its own cost about $1,500 just for a couple of folks to read a short number of passages. And so in the end, it was kind of expensive and it was complicated. And then I ended up with this file, and I said, okay, where exactly am I going to post this? And so I am like, okay, well, it's a 40-minute work, so maybe Audible. So I went to Audible, and they said, nope, sorry, Charlie. Nobody's going to buy something short when they have to pay $15 for a token, and we don't allow any AI narration. Even though I had used voice actor voices, so the voice actors were getting paid, for me using their AI models. They said, no way. And so there I was left with a lot of hard work and an expensive project on the one hand, and no place to put it on the other. And so I said to Andrew and Brent, I think we have an opportunity, and that is to combine the idea of easily and inexpensively creating a great audio for the written work with the network that can stream it and be monetized then by by the author. And so that's where all this came from. And what that results in, sort of, at the bottom, is opening up that world of words, for authors to now be able to capitalize upon, to have control. And so, I'm gonna overview just a couple of things here. We'll then get to the demo so you can really see it. So pairing that idea of the studio with the network, we've done a lot of things to make sure that we have a great, purpose-built workflow tool that, analyzes the work deeply, first and foremost. And that means, the summary, the comparables, the safety ratings, the tags that allow discoverability of the work. And now we're analyzing each and every character deeply in order to then describe the voice that would be perfect, and then to be able to generate the perfect match for that voice, whether it be a voice actor's voice or a voice that has never been before heard, a custom voice designed around that character as you, as the author, described it, and that would then be exclusively owned by you as the author of that character. And so all that's come to fruition now, and so that's kind of how all of that works. And then, add your cover art, double check the tags and the summary, and you're off to the races. And that entire process, compared to the traditional process, which for a 20-hour work would be at the very least $5,000 using traditional methods, more like 8 or 10,000 dollars, and traditional publishers generally spend more like 25 to 50,000 on a full, audiobook. And compare that to the $5 to $10 per finished hour that you get, on spoken. So I'll demonstrate all this. You'll see it here in just a moment. The network becomes really important. People ask us all the time, are you a competitor to 11 Labs? And we're like, no, 11 Labs is actually our biggest partner. They're like the text-to-speech technology that powers a lot of the capabilities that we're bringing to the table. But we're focused on authors, and we're focused on meeting the needs of authors in the two ways that I talked about, not just in the creation. You can bring your own audio, bring your own studio recorded voice actor audio. That's the gold standard. That still will be the gold standard. And so you can bring that and place it onto the network. And so that being able to stream it in one place, control it, and then monetize it, to us, is an important component of this, with transparency of the business model. Right now we're in a free beta, so there's no cost to any of it at all. But once we turn on the monetization for authors, it's going to get really, really exciting. It is a first of its kind, platform. It's both social and discovery, where authors can build their own brand. They get their own Instagram-like profile, and then be able to drive and share those works in a very social, media, network, a community-oriented environment. And we do it all without ads. This is one of my things. And I know this is being recorded, and you can share this around the world if you want. I hate ads. We hate ads. We don't want anything to stand in the way of somebody who wants to listen to a story, to listen to the story. And so it's our plan to offer up the network for free, that authors can place works on the network for free and not monetize it if they want, and listeners can come in for free. Um, and and so we want to be able to offer that all without ads, but be able to help authors to drive the economic model that supports us and them, at the same time, and do it all. I don't know if I mentioned this, without ads. So just a little tidbit of our approach on the economics. And you can take this as, no, this is being too promoty for spoken. Well, so this is how we approach it, because we think this is the right approach. And I'm saying this also as an author, and that is having the flexibility and making sure that it's fair, to authors. And so we after Author Nation was our debut, sort of our coming out for our company. It was, we had launched the free beta in July. We were finally getting the features in and locked in. in such a way that we're like, okay, let's debut. And Author Nation was a great milestone for us. And what we learned at that conference was just so incredibly much, but it really changed how we thought about the business of audio, and it resulted in what you're seeing here. And that is that we want to offer authors the ability to put up their works for free. And we know in talking with even very successful authors, we spent a lot of time talking with folks like ML Buckman and Jesse Quack and Cody Cisco and just so many awesome writers. Um, and and many of them, most of them, do have short form in their universe or teaser content that they want to be able to put out for free that will lead the reader, the listener in this case, to their full audiobook. Or they may be a new author like me that just wants to put stuff out for free in order to build their brand. Well, that means that offering that free barrierless gateway for both authors and listeners became really important. And we knew from those discussions that that would drive then direct sales of audiobooks for that author. And the author should be allowed to put whatever price they want on that work. And by the same token, there's this green area down here. This was our original vision, and it was really well confirmed that that should play an ongoing and important role, just not the entire role. And that is that for short form in particular, and maybe for authors that aren't as well known, being able to place their works under an ongoing Spotify-like subscription model, where it's endless streaming. The $10 a month paid will allow you endless streaming of that body of content, that body of high quality content. And then our guarantee is to be very un-Spotify-like in the payment, and that is to pay the authors directly the 50% of those subscriptions proportionally and directly based on how much of that listener's time was spent on that author. It's what we call the affinity model. And so if that listener pays $10 subscription, 5 of it goes to authors, and 20% of their time went to ML Buckman, then he directly gets that $1, that 20% of the 5, going directly back to him that month. And so build that up, and that becomes kind of that becomes a compelling part of the story for a class of content that fits well within that. Combine that all together, though, and what you get is, from direct sales and from the affinity subscription model, a combination of potential revenue opportunities for authors that combines pretty favorably. If you look at us elsewhere in the market, right now we're planning to come out with 75% going directly to authors. We'll take 25% as being the streaming and discovery network, in addition to the subscription. And so that is our plan right now. So 3 publishing options, 1 unified network that we think for authors will be both flexible and highly competitive. And so let's listen in. This is my big Andrew Walner letters to remind me that we're going to do a demo. And so before we do the demo, it's 23 after the hour. Should we wait, do we think, to the end for Q&A, or should we break for a minute, just see if there are initial questions? Keep going. Keep going. Okay, we're going to keep going, and then we'll open up for questions here at the end. And so I'm just going to pop over to Spoken, and I was just listening to a news story here, which you see our player here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and close the sticky player there. But that was actually from Joseph Nassis, who is a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author, who just put his 20-minute work in a universe of a well-known novel that he has published. And so a nice little bit of teaser content there for that universe and that body of work. And it's really high quality. He chose to go with a single narrator, which is the tried and true, very reliable cadence and delivery and good narrative cohesion. And so that's a really great example of a work in the spoken network. We have a staff pick here. We do have a content staff that reviews content regularly to place them on the spoken staff picks list. And so you can see it bears the little badge there, which is kind of cool. And so this is from Jessica Wheeler. Stacy Smith Rogers interviewed Jessica about this and her other works recently. And so you can find some of that on our LinkedIn and other areas. But Jessica's a great writer who's produced some great works for us. And you can see here that in this particular case, she chose a multi-voice or multicast approach, only two voices there. But that's a great example of work. And then Cody Cisco, I don't know if I have it right at the ready here, but Cody Cisco just released a full novel with 50 50 voices. That's 50 voice actor voices. Let's see if I can just go right here to my list of followed authors here. We've got a lot of authors that I follow, and I know that I follow Cody. So let's just go right here. We go. All right. So Cody's profile here. And so he just published Broken Mirror, Resonant Earth, Volume 1. And so he actually has chosen about 50 voice actors that got aligned automatically with the characters in his novel. And I'm going to show you exactly how that works. But anybody can come right to this work right now and play the work. Broken Mirror, Resonant Earth, Volume 1 by Cody Cisco. Chapter 1.
A new universe called to me, and I answered, ignorant of the harm in crossing over.
Victor Eastmore, Apology to Resonant Earth, transmission date unknown. So you can get a sense there for that audio. I'm going to just do a little bit of a tour down here through Spoken so you can get a sense of it. So there's the network, the streaming, the discovery aspect of it. Any user can go right into search and peruse any of a number of channels. This part here is always getting smarter and smarter and smarter as we analyze every work deeply to get a good profile of that story and then surface those works to the user exactly in the way that they want and give them the next best listen. And so all of these categories here have quite a bit of content now. We're really pleased with how nice the network has been growing. You see some of Jesse Quack's here work over here in science fiction, and a whole wide variety of works here. So what I'm going to do now is actually go to a profile page. I'll go to Cody's just to give you a sense for the profile page that you as an author would get. And so this here, this URL right at the top, this URL here is something that you will always have. You get to define your username. You get to define how you're presenting yourself to the world. And so this is a very shareable Instagram-like profile at that point. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in now to create just to show you how it's done. When you go into Studio, there's a video there that you can play that will show you a great demo. We have a Reddit, the Spoken Reddit, actually r/spoken, which gives you some great tips and tricks and has a lot of different activity from the community. We also have a Discord as well. And so that's becoming more and more active with a lot of folks just talking about how to optimize and reporting bugs. We're still in beta, so it's not perfect. And we're doing a lot of complex stuff with a small, very, very enthusiastic team. But it also means that we have things that do go wrong from time to time. So please keep that in mind. But I think you'll like what you see and what you hear. I'm going to do a quick story first called Welcome to the Audioverse, which is just a nice little demo because what it allows is a very, very quick example of how it all works. Let's see, do we have the sample? Perfect sample document. There we go. That's perfect. Okay. So now what you'll see is that there's the document. This could be a full novel, by the way, but I'm going to go ahead and confabulate this work. And what you'll notice is we call it confabulate because we can. Don't bust my chops on whether that's the wrong use of that word, but we like the word. So what you see is we're here in the project manager and we see the results of the initial confabulation or analysis. And so narrative prose has been detected. It's science fiction. It's a literary work. It's in English. and a little summary here, as well as comparables and the tags that are aligned with it, and then the safety analysis rating, which in this case is all good. So we have one installment, and so that's just because this is a standalone story. And just to demonstrate some of the real great capabilities here, I'm going to choose multi-character, multi-voice. And so we are going to watch as the system runs a more in-depth analysis. And what's happening right now is every bit of this story is being separated, analyzed, and it's analyzed across a lot of different parameters. Very importantly here, every character is being analyzed. And so in this particular case, it's pretty easy because we have three characters. We have two speaking characters and then the narrator character. And so what we're doing is we're separating it here into passages. Why? Because of the reason I said earlier, and that is because the spoken lines versus the dialogue tags are different and they need to be separated out. And so let's go ahead and let's actually do our narrator first. And what we're going to do here with the narrator is we're going to choose a voice. And so here's some suggested voices from the library that are the top matches. I'm actually, though, particularly fond of a voice actor, Victoria. And so I'm going to choose her. And what you can see is for this entire story, for the narrator role, it would be 23 cents. Now, we're not charging for anything right now. So, but basically for this whole story, for the narrator, which is most of the words in this story, it's 23 cents, a whopping 23 cents. So now let's go to Derek. Now, what you're going to see here is something very interesting because I'm going to demonstrate for you, not just choosing a voice actor voice, but instead I'm going to actually generate a voice that is based on the description we've automatically created, but you can edit, of this character as you wrote it, as you, the author, wrote it. And so now what's happening is we're looping through the AI models in order to surface the perfect voice for Derek that has never been before heard. And once you select it, it is yours. Nobody else will have access to that voice. So let's just take a listen.
Sienna, ever wonder why they call that the Milky Way?
Well, that's not quite right, I don't think. Let's keep going.
Sienna, ever wonder why they call that the Milky Way?
I kind of like that. Derek's kind of a sultry, kind of voice. So let's try this one.
Sienna, ever wonder why they call that the Milky Way? No.
Yeah, that could be Derek, but not today. So for Derek's work, we have 5 cents here. We're going to go ahead and select that voice. By the way, when you go into Studio, you can actually clone this very project over to your own profile to play around with it. But now I'm going to go ahead and do Sienna. Now, Sienna is an interesting one. And so she has a British accent. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to see what voices get surfaced from the library of voice actors. Emmeline, Ynette, let's see who else it comes up with here. It takes a second here. Well, it comes up with Sienna custom voice. Okay, that makes sense. And so let's go ahead and let's choose Emmeline here. A whopping 12 cents it would cost for Emmeline. And so now we have our voices chosen. And so let's go ahead and go to the next step, and you can see where the magic happens. You can add your own introduction, but here is the work all split out very colorfully. You can see which character aligns with which line. And because we've already assigned our voices, there's no work to be done to have to align each of these passages with the right character or voice. That's already been done. And so let's go ahead and let's just make spoken. And by the way, this introduction up here at the top is something that you can add, either the standard intro, or you can actually record your own intro. I'm going to go ahead and just keep that at none for right now. And so what you see at the top is these narrations are happening. And so we're almost half done with the story already. And so this is something that becomes very, very cost efficient as well as price efficient. In fact, while that's getting finished up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to Wizard of Oz, I know I have in here. Wizard of Oz with installment markers. Let's just go ahead and we'll go ahead and take this work. I'm going to download it as a Word doc, and then I am going to go ahead and upload that, because the reason I wanted to do that is because it showcases what we can do with full novels. Okay. And so, woohoo, it looks like you're uploading a large work. For works over 20,000 words, we require that you place this tag installment marker immediately before every chapter. It's a little bit of a job there to do that. But it works really well. And so we're going to show you here how it confabulates that. And so what's going to happen here is that it's going to paste through Wizard of Oz, and it's going to separate automatically all of those chapters out. And so it'll take, okay, the work's already starting to come back here. It's a fantasy work. Yes, we knew that. Thank you. There are wizards involved after all. And so here, back on our other story, everything's already done. And I'm going to go ahead and show you something here. So let's go ahead and play it. See how it sounds.
Sienna?
Derek said, breaking their long silence as they stared upward at the stars. Sienna took in and let out a long, wistful breath.
All right, that sounds pretty good at the start here. I'm going to scroll down to something, though, because I love demonstrating this. So here is Sienna. She's a British accented person. They're speculating about being able to change their voice. These are two young people. They're staring upward at the stars, and they're speculating about changing their voice.
I'd say things in an American accent, like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky, and then shoot me some tin cans with my two.
You know what? That's actually the best version of that line I have ever seen. But because I am intent on demonstrating a feature, and that is when a passage needs to be delivered a particular way, you can just speak it. So let me show you how that works here. I'd say things in an American accent, like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky, and then shoot me some tin cans with my 22. And so now that will loop through the character's AI model, and it will come out exactly as I just said it. And so here on the right, you can see when that turns green, and we'll give it a look-see, or here.
I'd say things in an American accent, like, I'm going down the road a piece to gnaw on some bison jerky, and then shoot me some tin cans with my 22.
That's not too bad. And so once we're done, we can finish up. I'm going to go ahead and add a quick intro here, and I'm going to do it as narrate my own intro. Now, this is interesting, right? Because when you think about this, you can have your narrator that you've chosen as narrator read Audioverse Test by Philip Marshall, right? You'll read your title, or you can record your own. This is Phil, and I'm doing a demonstration for the Author Nation folks of our Welcome to the Audioverse story. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, and so that gets uploaded to our content delivery network and gets all added. And now I can finish up. Okay, and so I've got the work ready to go. I'm going to get my title art here. Let's see. Audioverse, this is an image. And so Audioverse covered, there we go. Okay, so now what you'll see here is that there's the summary ready to go, the comparables, the tags. This is a coming of, these are going to go through a whole revision here in a couple weeks, but this is a coming of age story. We're going to be adding all of these sort of nicely channeled things like coming of age and that kind of thing. So those are always getting smarter and smarter. But, and I'm going to turn this to private because not everybody needs another audioverse out in the world. And then what I'm going to point out here is a couple of things. Apply audio mastering to this project. For multi-character works, we will apply a finishing layer, the finishing touch, a sheen, if you will, to normalize those voices on volume and background noise and all that. So it doesn't matter how disparate those voices are, it'll come out really, really nicely. And so I always end up doing the mastering. And then you can also choose whether or not you'd like to allow listeners to sponsor the translation of it in another language, or sponsor maybe it being read in another single narrator's voice. Now, those aren't features that are enabled yet on the listener side, but we are storing your choices as an author. So when we do release those features, then they'll be ready to go. And so now I'm going to go ahead and publish it. So we'll email you when the mastering is complete. This is a pretty short story, and so I don't think it'll take very long at all to have that ready. But what I wanted to show you over here on the other side of the equation is that our analysis is complete of Wizard of Oz, and it has 25 installments. There are the chapters nicely separated out. And there's the Dorothy Gale, a young Kansas farm girl, right? You can read that for accuracy there, since you all know the story. But the point is that now, once you actually go through the process of starting to make passages, and let's say that you want to do multi-character, multi-voice, a different voice for every single character in the Wizard of Oz, you can do that. And then the next step will be to roll up all of those characters and allow you to assign those voices. And so now we have the Audioverse test. This is Phil, and I'm doing a demonstration for the Author Nation folks of our Welcome to the Audioverse story. I hope you enjoy it.
Sienna?
Derek said, breaking their long silence as they stared upward at the stars.
All right, so now you get it. So this work is now ready to be shared with the world, and you can go forth and conquer. And so that's how it happens. And so we are at 40 minutes past the hour. I think that's a pretty good overview of our perspective on the market and what we're offering, and kind of the potential that it represents. Let me just turn my head to Andrew. Was there anything else that you wanted me to cover before we turn it over to Q&A?
The beta is entirely free, and we have a promo code.
Oh, right, that would be
Click
the next
last
slide.
you turkey.
Yeah, so there's the QR code for you to be able to get to the application. It's a web-based application. There's no app that you have to download. You can add the icon to your home screen, though, even from a web application, and it's entirely free for everybody right now. We're just wanting to kind of generate more and more excitement and sharing, and authors telling us what they want and how we screwed up on this and they need to fix it, and all sorts of good things. So yeah, so definitely go on in, and you can use the promo code when registering of Author Nation, and that will automatically upgrade you to writer status, and you won't have to request access to all of the great audio generating features that I just demonstrated in studio. So with that, and I'll just go ahead and keep that up on the screen for you, but with that, why don't we turn it over to some Q&A?
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's fantastic to see in action. And yeah, even from I know you did that example in the presentation. I feel like the audio has gotten even better. Like you were saying, that was the best one yet.
Yeah. Well, Sienna just keeps getting smarter. I do worry about her and how smart she's gotten, but we'll keep an eye on her.
Awesome. So we definitely have some questions in the chat. I had a quick follow-up question as well. I saw that you can edit the like summary and tags and stuff for the stories. With the safety analysis for things like violence, sexual content for authors who have those and want those in their stories. Are those things that if they're flagged, it creates an issue in the Smokin's platform? Okay.
Really very rarely. So we actually have 4 different levels on all 6 categories. So low, medium, high, and then dangerous. Right now, we block dangerous, but that's a very rare occurrence. It would be very unlikely that you would trigger that threshold. When we deploy our full safety moderation capability, which we anticipate in another about 4 weeks or so, we'll have a little bit more sophisticated approach to that. Not only will you see the overall headings, but were there some triggering or trigger warning worthy things that might have rolled up to those? So we'll highlight those as well. And then what that allows us to do is the author can correct that if it's not correct, but then we're able to label the works with those things, and then a user and their preferences can make sure that those either are filtered out or included based on their preferences. So the safety moderation is going to get smarter and smarter, better and better. But the bottom line to your question right now is if you have those in your stories, the age group is restricted to 18 and over on spoken currently. So it's very unlikely that you would be flagged as dangerous and be blocked at that point. So I'd say go forth and conquer with your risque stories.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll just kind of start hitting the questions in the order they were asked. And then, like I said, anything we don't get to today, we have tomorrow evening. And then this and tomorrow evenings will also be recorded. So I'm going to start with a few questions from Thorn. Hi, Thorn. Can we undo merge voices?
Can you undo merge voices? Well, undo is a big topic at Team Spoken. Undo generally, right? So you can merge passages, you can separate passages, you can add spacing, you can change volumes, you can change character, you can add a character that wasn't there before. This particular passage is spoken by somebody who just came out of the blue, and our AI didn't detect it, so you need to add a character. That's all fine. But merging characters is an important capability because the AI doesn't pick up accurately all the time all the different aliases that occur for a given character. And so you can merge characters. We don't have any undo right now on the beta. We will someday, I don't think that long from now, have an undo on Studio that will allow you to undo everything. But undoing merge characters right now is not something that you can do. But what you can do is if you have one or a few passages that are somebody else that shouldn't have been merged in, you can just change it right there on that passage to a different character and assign a different voice for them. So
Thank
yep.
you. And then will there be limited access for personal assistance in the future? So authors who are looking to have like their assistants come in and do this work for them.
There's really nothing that would prevent that, today. They can certainly go in and with that author's permission, manifest the right profile name and their works. What we have every user attest to when they first sign up for the service through our terms of use is that they have the right to place those works on the network. And so that is not really overly constrained right now. Having said that, we do have a little bit of an eye towards the future on this. We have a notion because of your question, it's clear that this is prevalent, is that whether it's agencies or it's somebody that we might call a channel partner, maybe these are magazines that represent authors that don't otherwise have an audio outlet, and so they want to place their works on audio, but they're representing that author. We will actually set up that layer of agency or channel partner to be able to support them in a little bit more of a business management kind of way, where you have your dashboards, you can manage the splits that you have arranged with that author, et cetera. And I know that was a long-winded answer to your question, but there's nothing that would stop somebody if they have the right to be able to do it right now from doing it. However, more and more in the future, we're going to be supporting that as their business model.
Yeah, and then the follow-up to that would be so definitely you're saying there's nothing to prevent like general full access. And then are there plans in the future as well to have like more of a limited access so you can assign someone to like maybe upload things but not view the financial thing?
Yeah, that's exactly the idea of the channel partner dashboard,
Mm,
is that those things that the author should have access to, those things that their partner that might be putting the work on the network would have access to, and making sure that that's all above board.
awesome.
Yeah, the account management side especially, yeah.
Perfect. And are more voice actors coming or actor
Yeah,
voices?
we've got about 280 right now on the network. We're continually adding them. Our content team is always reviewing. We actually on our Discord channel have pretty frequently had people suggest their own voice if they have it on like 11 Labs. And so we'll review that, and it's very possible we'll add it in if we think it's a good quality voice. We'll add them all in. And so if you have a particular voice that you already know that you like, and it's on 11 Labs, then go to our Discord and in the voices channel, go ahead and suggest that and we'll review it. But yeah, we're always adding more and more. In fact, Cody, I mentioned this already, but he chose about 50 voice actors for his multicast recording of Broken Mirror. And so we're pretty excited about that as a great example of using voice actor voices.
Awesome. And then another question about voices, is author voice cloning coming in the future?
Well, so what we say there is that we aren't a voice cloning technology, right? We do help you to create your work and then be able to stream and monetize that work. But if you go onto 11 Labs and your voice is on 11 Labs, let us know. And for right now, I don't really see any reason why we wouldn't go ahead and add that in, but it would have to be on that marketplace. One of the things that we're looking at, but has some technical barriers right now, is allowing the person to privately put their voice on 11 Labs and then come into their profile, put their ID of their 11 Labs voice in their profile so that they have access to it and it's not broadly accessible across the marketplace. There are some technical barriers right now to doing that, but we think soon that that will be something that we offer. And again, sorry for the long-winded answer.
Oh no, this is all great. And then have you made the option to export the audiobook from spoken?
Great question. It's what we call take it with you.
Mm.
And so we don't yet have the technical capability for you to directly download the work off of Spoken, but we will. We will charge for that once we make that available, but that will be under our broader rubric of charging listeners to pay for direct sale audiobooks, paying the author, helping pay for narration. So we'll start charging for narration. And so once we get to that V1, which we anticipate probably now in the late spring, early summer timeframe, we'll also make available the Take It With You feature. So that will be coming.
Awesome. And then how does the narrator assignment work with dual narration romance, where each
Oh,
chapter
dual
is a
narration
different?
romance. Yes. If my product folks are listening in, they'll know that we just keep bumping dual narration down a release. It's actually something that's pretty straightforward for us to work in. We've just had some other things, fixes and what have you that have leapt in front of it. But the plan for dual narration is this. If we identify it as narrative prose, which includes romance, we'll offer three options, not two. Single narrator, multi-character, multi-voice, what we call MCMV, which is just the multicast, or duet narration. What does duet narration mean? What it really means is that we'll separate out the narrator by chapter. So let's say we parse and find 5 chapters, 10 chapters, 50 chapters. We will not have one narrator in that case. We will have a narrator per chapter. And then you can designate that these chapters are that narrator, these chapters are that narrator, in order to allow you that kind of flexibility. We haven't built that in yet, but we know how we're going to do it. So stay tuned on that.
Okay, perfect. Follow-up question about recording your own intro. How concerned should you be about soundproofing and finding a good place to get clean audio? Does the system clean it up and smooth it out, or should we be hanging blankets?
Yeah. So our mastering, if you choose mastering, it will apply to your intro as well. So we'll nicely smooth it out. It's always best to find a good place with not a lot of background noise in order to record your intro. But I'll say, and those who have done it, by the way, we just deployed record your own intro a release ago. So it was only about 2 weeks ago now that we released that. And since then, our authors, if they use mastering, they don't really notice anything really much at all. But at the same time, those variations in how you introduce your work, even if there is a little bit of, imperfect sound quality, it comes off as very genuine, right? I mean, you're introducing your work, and that is so vastly different than this is Audible, that our listeners are really appreciating that very genuine aspect of it. So, but at the same time, if you use mastering in particular, it can help overcome those imperfections.
Mhm. And then question about, can you take a story down after a period of time so that you can change the content periodically?
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. So first, bottom line, you are in control of your profile and your work. If you want to change a work from public to private at any time, do it. If you want to delete your project off the network, do it. If you want to make a project unlisted, so only those people with the link have access to it, like how YouTube does it, we give you that option too. So you're in control as far as taking things down. Having said that, the person who asked that question asked it in a very interesting way, and in a way I am very excited to answer. So we believe at Spoken that no work ever has to be truly done. If you don't find that chapter 2, about a third of the way through, is really quite right, or in the analytics, you're seeing that people are falling off of, a third of the way down through chapter 2, go in and change it and just republish it. Change those passages, take out the fluff, cut it down, add a few clarifying things, change that point that people were confused about, and just hit republish. Just re-narrate it and hit republish, and boom, same URL will bring people to the same story, but everybody is always listening to the latest and most up-to-date story. And what does that represent? That represents a title change to how we think about a work, because what historically we're all like, okay, throw it over the transom, right? It's over there, it's on a bookshelf, or it's on Audible, or it's on Spotify. It's done. I can't go back and correct it. No, this is a fluid, iterative process. You're in control. Go in and change it however you want, and just hit republish.
Perfect. And then we have a question about what markets are or will Spoken Press work with. For example, if I use Spoken Press, can I sell my audiobook on Apple, Audible, etc.?
There are some networks that allow AI narration, and there's some that do not. I'll just make sort of a blanket statement that once we allow the take it with you, which is the download of the work, you will have certain venues that you can take it to and sell it through. There's no doubt. And by the same token, the other way around, if you have your studio recorded audio and want to leverage what we're building at Spoken and what we will be deploying with regard to monetizing that work on Spoken, you can bring it here too. So, so every service is a little bit different though, and if you have used the AI narration, some of them, like Audible, prevent that from happening currently, but others are not quite so restrictive.
Right. That makes sense. And that's definitely something that I'm sure we'll need to keep an eye on in the coming years as these things are
There may be one
constantly.
or two things that change about that over time. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So we have about 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna give time for any last questions about this. But we will also have a deeper dive tomorrow evening as well, with any questions that folks have. Um, I can kind of ask some questions that I have. In terms of, I think a good place to close maybe is, what advice would you give to indie authors who are hesitant about jumping into the audiobook space due to whether it's cost, time, technical barriers?
You've had good reason historically to be worried, concerned for cost and workflow purposes. It's never been easier or better to jump in now that things are changing so nicely, and that's what we're here to do. And you can come into our beta now and participate. I think you'll find it not just easy and free, of course, right now, but even fun. We actually get that word a lot, and it surprised me as the guy who founded this and designed the solution that people call it fun. And so you might even find that you get a real lift from it as you hear your works in these incredible voices. And so it's never been easier. It's never been better. We're constantly improving. Come on in and tell us how we screwed up. We're open to it. So,
I mean, yeah, that's the great thing about beta, getting on the
it
ground
is.
floor and
That's right.
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you everyone in the chat who joined us for all your great questions. I see some folks who are already using spoken, like Cody Cisco's on and all that.
Oh, hi, Cody.
Hi, Cody. And thank you for sharing all the features with us. Let me double check. Oh, we just have someone who said thanks. But yeah, we'll dive more into this tomorrow evening. It'll be 7 p.m. I can drop that link in the chat for folks now. So yeah, feel free in the next day, try things out, and then come back with more questions and we can go through the platform again. Yeah, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Isabella.
Isabella.
Thanks,
Bye.
Author Nation folks, and thanks everybody who joined us.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.